Hey, Rainbow here, and welcome to the 5,000 mile review. Actually, let's see how many miles I actually have on this thing. And while I'm doing that, I just saw something that has been bugging me a little bit lately. Been a bit of a pain in the butt. Let's go here. So 5,182 miles is where I'm at right now. Just gassed up, so I have 3.8 miles on it. So let's talk about the Ducati Multistrada V4S travel and radar without the radar. Let's review it. All right, I have to shut this because it's very windy out, so I'm going to try to keep this as quiet as possible, but there's just a lot of wind. All right, so after 5,000 plus miles, what do I think? Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you is, if you didn't already see it, I changed the oil a second time. Now, I had my first servicing done at 720 miles, and then again at 5,000. And the reason why I did it at 5,000, even though I had the recommended oil from Ducati in the full synthetic, was because I didn't like the color. I choose to change it more often. I change it myself. Therefore, it costs me about half of what it would cost to get it done. There's going to be a description, or there's actually a link above if you look, where I showed you how to change the oil, but it's a simple thing with changing the oil. Well, now that I've had this for 2 months, and I've had it for 5,000 plus miles, what are my thoughts? First of all, I'm very happy with the bike, okay? And things that you're going to hear are somewhat of a repeat, such as it would have been nice for them to have the Apple Play instead of this Ducati Connect. The Ducati Connect is just, it takes a while to get used to it, and it's very finicky, and you have to follow certain procedures. And when a Ducati Connect is on, and if you just go up to any other app while the Ducati Connect is connected, it literally won't function. So that makes it a pain in the butt. If you have a Cardo like I do, it's just very finicky with everything. I end up having to say, hey, Cardo, music off, in order to get the music to play through the app like you see there. Now right now my Cardo's off because I can't afford to have this thing screwing up while I'm trying to do a review. All right, overall, the bike is very powerful. It seems like it gains more power as it breaks in, and I did make some setting adjustments. Now, I keep it in touring most of the time, and I did adjust the Ducati Willy control from the factory setting of 3 with touring to 2, because there's some places that I kind of like lifting up the front end. Don't want to get too aggressive, and it keeps it in the memory, and that seems to be working well. I will tell you, when I redline this thing, even in touring mode, I am lifting that front end off, you know, right through 4th gear at a pretty fast speed. So this bike really has a lot of power. It's very sporty, but it's considered an adventure touring. You know, the other component that I like about this bike is the versatility. I am not going to take it off-roading, but I have taken it on dirt, gravel roads. I have taken it out in the woods just to kind of test it out with these street tires that it has, and I'm pretty content, you know, with the way it's working. Don't expect a whole lot. It has the nice clearance, so if you ever have to go up a curb or off a curb, which I actually had to do for parking purposes, it works really, really well. It seems to be very reliable. I just adjust the chain occasionally. I have a video about that. I lubricate the chain and clean it just like I'm supposed to. I take care of the bike, and that's it. Now, I'm going to revisit gas mileage, because I did do 2 different videos on gas mileage. The more I drive it, the more I become comfortable with it. the more aggressive I drive and the less I care about gas mileage. The only time I give a crap about gas mileage is when I'm going on a trip, and I have a trip with 3 of my buddies coming up here shortly in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be heading out, and I am going to care about gas mileage. So the gas tank is plenty big at 5.8. If you're driving reasonable, I'm going to say you can probably get around 36 miles to the gallon, 37. I did get as high as 47, but I think I had a pretty good wind behind me for that, and it seemed to be very helpful. But if you're going to drive it around town and take it to work as a commuter and deal with traffic, and then maybe occasionally go on the highway, you're looking at about 30 miles to the gallon. I think I'm averaging about 32, 33 in that range, and it's working. You know, it's not great, but for a 4-cylinder, more of a high-performance bike, I really can't complain. I honestly can't complain about it. So reliability, it's been good. The only thing I took it to the dealer for was a spring issue on the kickstand, which I showed a little video about that, and that was something that Ducati was already aware of, and you know, they took care of it. And then there's a clicking noise that was driving me crazy that apparently Ducati was already aware of that, and I took it back to the dealer and they took care of that. Both items were literally, I was in and out in 20 minutes. It was because they realized it was a really quick, simple job. So I just went down and they took care of it, and that was the end of it. Didn't even have to make an appointment. I just showed up and said, hey, my spring's busted. Although I did call them when I was on my way down just to make sure they had one in stock. All right. The handling has been fantastic. I would love to take this bike out on a track and have my hard case panniers off, which they're actually off right now. But I don't have a full suit. You know, I'd have to wear separate tops and bottoms, and I don't know if everything would qualify for what they're looking for at the local track here. It would be nice to kind of open this up. I have taken it on some private areas and was able to get this puppy very easily up to 147 miles an hour and had a lot of room to go yet. So not a problem on that end as far as that's concerned. That is not an issue. The smoothness of the bike is fantastic. No problems there. The wind, okay, so I didn't want to spend $250 just for a new piece of plastic here, but apparently I'm going to, because right now down, up, and they have a touring version that's a little bit bigger than this, that is supposed to be a little bit better. I was aware of this before I bought the bike, and just didn't want to part with 250 bucks, but we're gonna see. A lot of times when I'm in traffic, I'm keeping it down because I need the airflow. I'm in South Florida. The sun is unbearable. The heat, the humidity is pretty bad. This winter was pretty good, but we're pretty much almost into summer weather right now, so that makes a big difference. But right now we have a cold front moving through. It was like 60 degrees this morning when I woke up, and it's about 70 degrees right now. It says 71 air here. They're both relatively close. All right, I guess they're making a right because they're in that lane. And instead of having fun, I'll have this kind of fun and go around this thing. But anywho, it is a good bike. It's a smooth bike. I will let you know if I find a difference with this new windscreen whenever I get it. They're still not in stock yet. I did order the engine crash bars for it. I think they're a little pricey if you ask me. Maybe I'll kind of wait for another company to come out with something that fits on these. That would be nice. But we're talking over $500, I think almost $600 for a set of crash bars for this thing, which to me is kind of ridiculous, because it's only a, I think it looks like a two-piecer that fits in, or actually a one-piece that bolts up inside. But let's go back to the windscreen. On the highway, when it's a little blustery out and the wind's coming from the side, I don't think anything's going to help you. But one of the things this is not doing is it's not creating like a nice little air bubble for you, like I was hoping it was going to do. You know what, let's go this way. And that's it. Now, something else. When I'm driving and I'm rolling to a stop, never, just like you, if you saw, no problem getting into neutral, okay? Downshifting or upshifting up into neutral, not a problem. When you're rolling, when I am sitting still and I'm stopped, and maybe I'm in first because I'm holding it, looking for traffic behind me and so on and so forth, then things change. It seems like it's getting harder and harder to get this thing into neutral. So I'm going to see if there's some sort of an adjustment for that. I'll, inquire to the dealership to check that out. But it just seems like it's harder and harder to get into neutral from a stop, and it's not. And it's like it's a small little door of opportunity to get it in. It's almost like it's like you have maybe a couple thousandths of an inch to get it in, but yet when you do it while you're shifting and driving and coming down to a stop sign, man is it windy, then it's a lot easier to get into neutral. So that's one of the things that I did notice. Unfortunately, I live in Florida, so I'm noticing my rear tire is starting to wear and sort of kind of flat spot in the middle, which is very disheartening because you're kind of looking at it here for turns. I'm not even joking. I will sometimes drive to roundabouts solely for the purpose of making a turn, but that only takes care of the left side, that's about it. It's not really helping me on the right side. So that's the downside. So yes, I can drive or ride this bike year-round in Florida, and not have to put it away and not have to winterize it. That's all great. But outside of that, Florida is just very flat. There's just not a lot of curves and turns, and that creates a problem. So I'm going to actually make a U-turn up here as soon as I can, and I'm going to get on the highway, and we'll take a look on the highway and see what we got when we go there. Woo! Hello, son. How are you today? Okay, I'm going to get on the highway here. Wow, is it windy? Holy sh! Anyway, it is really blustery. It is really kicking up. It was on the... Wow. Amazing. So it's probably going to make this really too loud, but okay, hopefully you can hear me. One of the things that I've noticed is that on the highway, I don't really want to go into sixth gear until I'm kind of cruising and settled in, and honestly probably above 70 degrees, to be quite honest with you. Alright, now, with it being windy, I'm behind a little box truck here, panel truck, or whatever you want to call it, and I can really feel it on myself. Now, I picked this up, and it'll improve it, but it's not, wow, it's not creating a bubble around me for the wind that's coming in. Now, I'm facing north right now, and the wind is pretty heavy coming from the east. So when I hit some of these openings, you can really feel it pushing on me pretty heavily here. So I don't know if a bigger windscreen is going to help lateral winds, but I'm assuming if you're going fast enough in the 60, 70 mile an hour, that it should be able to create enough of a bubble that it's going to stop anything coming sideways at you. I don't know, but I guess at 250 bucks I'm going to find out, so you guys can see what my thoughts are at my expense, so that'll be great. Alright, now, engine braking. This motorcycle is very harsh on engine braking, so what I end up doing is hovering my right foot over the brake all the time, because I pretty much use engine braking to stop and then I will downshift. But if I'm on the highway like this and I see some brakes up ahead, so I'm going to get out of that slick lane. Alright, I'm doing 79, let's go to 80, right? If I roll off the throttle, man, it just, look at, I mean, within seconds it just drops down because of the engine braking. So you really do get used to doing a lot of your braking just simply by rolling off the throttle. So the people behind you really never see your brake lights. So I'm constantly down here tapping my rear brake just to let them know, hey, I'm slowing down. So that's what I do. I get used to just tapping it because of this engine braking situation here. And that's really dominant at the higher speeds, of course. You can control it a little bit better at the lower speeds, but when you get to the higher end of the RPM, your engine braking is pretty significant, and I am not aware of any adjustments at all for engine braking. I mean, not in the least bit am I aware of how you can adjust the engine braking on this bike. I think it's great and it's convenient because I'm not wearing out my brakes, and there's no problem on an engine when you are engine braking. That could be debatable with some people, but honestly, from my understanding of engines over the last decades, it's really not at all. It's not a problem. It doesn't overheat them. It's just not an issue in today's engines. But the problem is you're not hitting your brake and getting a brake light in the back. So just remember, if you're going to use it for braking, which I honestly do most of the time, you have to remember to keep tapping that rear brake so that people are aware of the fact that you are slowing down, because it's bad enough that a motorcycle is a target and people don't like here, you know, they're going to just go, I'm trying to keep a good distance, and you know, where are they going? Now all I'm doing, I'm not braking, I'm just rolling off, so I'm tapping my foot because I'm not braking. But of course when I tap the rear brake, it's not very effective for braking. Most of my braking here is solely off of the throttle and the downshift. So I didn't touch my front brakes at all, and I went, you know, down a good 12 to 15 miles an hour there. Now, acceleration with this bike. All right, I'm in the 80 mile an hour range in 5th gear, and man is it windy. I'm in a really windy area right now, and it's really not open for me to kind of open this puppy up. It's just not safe for me to do that right now. So I'm going to go ahead into 6th gear. You can feel a little bit of the release on the transmission going into 6th, because 6th has a pretty damn big range. I mean, you can get into 6th gear in the mid 60 miles an hour, and I'm sure you can take 6th gear all the way up to 150, and it's gonna easily take it, whereas, you know, your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd gear are a little bit more limited, although you can get close to 100 in 3rd gear, just so that you're aware, in case you were curious about that. I don't know what else you really want to know about it, because it is only 5,000 miles, and I went over the two minor things that were service bulletins with Ducati anyway, that really weren't big deals, and they were easily taken care of. Okay, here we go. Now, One more thing, comfort. This bike is very comfortable. I am coming from an Indian Scout bobber, so I am coming from the cruiser world, and will tell you that this bike is good for really long trips. I have spent 9 hours in one day of seat time, and that was when I went up to Daytona, which is 3.5 hours away, and very comfortable. I think that the handlebars could probably be back a little bit on this, so sometimes I find myself sliding forward with the seat and kind of literally jamming your crotch right up against the tank, and it gives you a little bit more of a upright feel, and it's still and it's really comfortable. So I will adjust my my position on the bike. Now, for sake of keeping track of things, for reference, I'm just under 6 feet. Let's just say I'm 5'11", because I never made it to 6 feet. I have a 32-inch inseam, so I'm really comfortable on this bike. I think this bike is about the perfect size. I do like a little bit lower seats than what I have, but this is the factory seat. I have it at the lower setting for a factory seat. You do have an option for low and high with factory seat, and you can also buy a separate seat that is lower and buy another seat that is higher. But really the bigger issue with me is the handlebars. I really kind of wish that they were a little bit more back towards me, because I don't want to lean forward a whole lot, because it puts pressure on your neck having a helmet on, and especially if you have a helmet with a GoPro, it will definitely affect your neck when you're going to be doing really long trips. And feel that wind coming off the ocean. Holy schmoly. Maybe you can hear it, I don't even know. But anyway, so that's about it. It's a comfortable bike, it's a reliable bike, it has a ton of power, maybe too much power for me, because sometimes it's hard to hold back, to be quite honest with you, and it's hard not to drive like an idiot. And I am really being honest about this, to be quite honest with you. I'm being very honest with you about it. Well, as I ride off into the sunset, there you have it. The 5,000-mile review of the Ducati Multistrada V4 travel and radar without the radar, in the United States anyway. Till next time, folks, this is Rainbow. Stay safe and have a great day. Goodbye.